right, good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Westmiller. I'm the Director for Homeland Security and Emergency Management here for St. Clair County. And this is the Town Hall meeting for East China Township. And with us tonight, we have the Supervisor for East China Township and the Township Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves?
You want to go ahead, Brian? Are you muted?
He's not muted. We're not hearing you, Brian.
I can go ahead. I'm Cindy Paparelli, East China Township Manager.
We have Brian on, but it looks like his microphone may not be working.
All right.
So I'll help him work through that, Cindy, if you want to keep going.
He can actually 1 minute here.
How about now?
Yep, we got you.
All right. Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm Brian Rauch, East China Supervisor. Thank you for the introduction, Justin.
So we also have with us Dave Vandenbosch, who's the County Commissioner for that area of the county. Welcome, Dave. And then we have Mark White, who's the Deputy Director for Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And I think, and we have Russ DeCrease, who's our Chief Planner as well. So right off the bat, how we're going to work this is we have I'm going to put up on the screen the agenda for the evening, and we'll work through the agenda. And as I stated in the chat prior to starting, I'll answer questions, or whoever has the information will answer the questions as we work through while people are talking. And then we'll get to the question and answer session at the end. I'll open everybody up. If you're not going to be asking the question, if you could just keep yourself muted, and then we'll kind of do it one at a time. If you can try and keep yourself to 2 or 3 minutes on the question. And if we have to follow up with you afterwards, we will. And we'll work that through the chat, or I'll write it down, or Cindy will write it down, and we will get back to you if we don't have the answer right on hand. And we're going to talk through things like damage assessment and all the other information that may be helpful for you tonight. So looking forward to providing helpful information and taking back feedback. And I think, Cindy, you'll take it away. I'm going to put the info up for you right now.
Great.
Can you see it?
Yep, we can see it. If you wanted to hit the start slideshow.
Yep.
Perfect. Great. And then Brian is going to go through a little bit first, and then he's going to kind of walk us through the rest of the evening. Shortly, one of the slides is going to have some phone numbers and contact information. We'll leave that slide up for a significant amount of time, but if for some reason we lose that, just call Township Hall and we'll make sure that you get whatever you need. Plus, this is being recorded, and the plan is to have it be shown on Channel 6 as soon as possible. So if you know people who couldn't attend tonight, we'll be able to share it there. So go ahead, Brian.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I just want to hope we're finding you guys warm and dry this evening. For those of you that don't know me, I am Brian Rauch, newly elected East China Supervisor. And although I am new to the position, I'm not new to the area, so I have experienced fluctuations of water at my own home on the Bell River due to ice jams with the Marine City Bridge. The upside to this ice is eventually going to go away, allow the water to drop back to the comfortable level that we were seeing in January. So, Justin, you change the slide down there. Do you want to, Justin, you want to go through your
Sure. And
update?
Yeah, and I'm going to drop this. So, all right. All right. So I want to run through a quick timeline of what happened on the 1st, which is when we had the issue, and then we can kind of work through what we're doing now. So, and then I'm going to answer the question right off the bat that a lot of people have presented to us. So around 1300 on the 1st, we noticed through the water gauges at the city of St. Clair, at the old Michigan State Police Post, where the nearest water gauge to East China is, as well as the Algonac water gauge, that they were both rising quickly. And that rise started right around 1300 in the afternoon, just after 12 o'clock. There was no water rise prior to 1300. By a little after 2:45 in the afternoon, we made the first call to the U.S. Coast Guard ice officer, which is Miss Tracy Gerard currently. And she consequently had already noticed that same rise because they're kind of monitoring the same information. And they had already dispatched 2 Coast Guard cutters, one on the Canadian side and one on the U.S. side, to get underway to help provide domestic flood assistance. That's a less than 3-hour response time for a federal assistance, which is very good response. So, and then we back briefed the Army Corps of Engineers to do the paperwork to make sure that we had the backing of the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard to continue that operation. So the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Bristol Bay and the Canadian Coast Guard cutter Griffin made it on scene. Unfortunately, the Bristol Bay got to Algonac and had an engine issue and had to pull into port for the night because it was not mission capable. So the Griffin stayed underway until about 10 p.m. And was working flushing operations at the bottom end of the St. Clair River at the Seaway, trying to relieve some of that pressure when at 10 o'clock at night, they just couldn't see it. It wasn't safe for them to operate any longer with all the markers being pushed under the water. So they had to stop until first light. They then got underway again just before 7 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And we also had the Risley, the Canadian Coast Guard cutter, Samuel Risley, and the Nia Bay brought into the area the next day. So we had 4 Coast Guard cutters breaking ice on the 2nd. And we've had 4 in the area breaking ice since every day. We had to send the Bristol Bay and the Nia Bay back, and we got the Biscayne Bay and the Morrow Bay in their stead. So, and as you can see today, we have open water in Marine City. So in East China Marine City, there's open water as of today, which is good news. So that's kind of where we're at. One of the big questions we've heard, and we've been working back and forth with the weather services, why didn't we get a winds alert? So we talked with the weather service a couple of days, and we talked with our provider Everbridge just this morning to finally understand. So they issued the initial alert, and when they drew what's called a polygon that announces it to people, they literally drew it right across the river. They didn't touch the land with it. So when they did that, it didn't hit any of the households, and it didn't tell our Everbridge or wind system to announce it to any of the households. So we've asked the weather service to do a better job on that and make sure that they hit the land where actual people live and not just the waterway where it's flooding. So they told us that they would do better on that. The reason why you haven't gotten subsequent notices on the flood, even though you've seen it on TV and things like that, is the same reason we don't do updates to tornado alerts or anything else, is you would be constantly every 6 to 12 hours getting another flood warning. We already know there's a flood going on at that point. You don't need to constantly get flood warnings once you know that it's happening. So so that's why you would have gotten the first one if they would have drawn the polygon correctly, but there's no reason to get subsequent ones because we already know we're flooding. So that's the answer on that. So some of the next issues that I think the township's going to talk about is why we're going to talk about debris management and things like that. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions on that. So I'm going to let the township talk about their contractual issues with Mterra. And then maybe once we get to the question and answer section, we'll be able to help a little bit back and forth. And Jim, I see you have some questions, so I'm going to answer those offline while Brian and Cindy talk about some of the township issues, okay?
All right, thank you, Justin. Let's start with the township infrastructure. So following the initial flooding on February 3rd, following actions have taken place. As the water was rising, it was evident that if it continued, it would infiltrate our storm and sanitary sewer system. DPW got pumps hooked up to utilize the 4-inch bypass force main located at the intersection of Francis and M29. A second pump was rented as a backup in case of failure. As the water continued to rise, we were forced to dam off and sandbag the lift station on Point Drive. Point Drive lift station did have a pump failure late in the evening of the 3rd, but a replacement pump was put in place that same evening. On the 4th, a resident called about a whirlpool in their yard, which prompted us to dam off in an area that was under a foot of water and try to contain the potential for a large sinkhole due to a failure in the sewer line, potentially caused by the heavy flow in the pipe. We hired a pipe camera inspection company that showed multiple smaller scale leaks, allowing water to get into the sewer and make its way to the sewer plant. For a while, the sewer plant was running at 100% capacity. Some of these areas were dammed off and the water started to recede. We came down to about an 80% capacity. This kept all the residents able to utilize the sewage system, and we had 0 outages. The water plant continued to provide us all with the fresh, clean drinking water through all this. So I'd like to give a big thank you to our DPW water sewer workers who did work long hours on cold days and nights to keep our systems operational. Moving on, our DPW has provided 2 full semi-loads of sand and bags up to this point, but due to the cold, the sand continues to freeze. So the piles that you would normally see outside are actually in our DPW storage warm warehouse there. So if you are in need of sandbags, please call DPW. You can schedule a time to gain access to the warm, thawed out sand that we can actually put into some bags. So those are still readily available. To get into what Justin was talking about with Mterra. So the trash collection is planned for Thursdays. They were out today. I spoke with the supervisor at 4 o'clock. His report was that all the trucks were able to get down all roads and do garbage pickup. We do understand as we thaw out, cleanup efforts get underway. There will be some large items or refuse waste that Mterra will not pick up. For reference, our contract states Mterra will pick up 1 large item as well as up to 10 rolls of carpet per week. So we encourage you to set up special pickups with Mterra directly. They will make special trips directly to your address. So Cindy is going to provide on the slide the Mterra phone number and email. As far as we did have a lot of calls this week about the roads, some of the offshoot roads off of Point Drive that were underwater. So we do understand there's road closures due to the water and ice. As the ice freezes, some residents drive through it. It's creating ice channels and ice ruts. I witnessed some of those. There's some small cars that are just not going to make it through those ice ruts. So as these situations are brought up and brought to our attention, they're going to change daily, if not hourly. But we've been in touch with the St. Clair Road Commission. They've been very quick to aid in cleaning out some of the ice, even so much as trucking in snow to fill in some of the voids and bringing the grader out multiple days in a row now to try to flatten them out. Last thing I got here is for seniors. We encourage you to utilize the Council on Aging. They serve St. Clair County for assistance. It's a great resource. We'll provide that in a slide also, the contact number and email. But it's a great resource, so we encourage you to reach out to them. They can detail out all what they have to offer. With that being said, I think I'm all set, Justin.
All right, thanks, Brian. So I guess at this point, some of the issues. So I know many of you have flood insurance, and then there's quite a few residents that don't. So for those of you that don't have flood, or that do have flood insurance, I urge all of you to contact your flood insurance provider immediately, as soon as possible. That's your first step. And they're going to ask you to do things like take pictures and document everything that all the damage that you have. For those of you, and for those of you that don't have flood insurance, I also ask you all to document your damage as well. We've been sending out a damage report or a damage assessment survey, and we're going to send that link out. I'm going to send that link out on the chat here in just a minute. So I ask all of you to, if you have time, please do that. Currently, we do not have a state emergency declaration nor a presidential emergency declaration. So there is not any individual assistance nor any public assistance available. That's just where we are right now. It's a very small emergency. We did issue a county emergency. Unfortunately, it hasn't risen to the level where the governor has signed a declaration. We do have FEMA's attention. They are watching our daily briefs at 11 o'clock, and we absolutely have the state's attention. We're working through the process to see if the costs, both on the private side and the public side, rise to the level that we may get those declarations. So we are working that process now, and part of that process is getting as many damage assessment surveys in from the residents and the townships and cities that are involved. So either myself or one of my staff will put it in the chat here as we work through today.
Justin, this is
yes.
Randy.
Yes, sir.
This is Randy Newhouse. I live off of Point Drive on Merrill Drive, which is
yes,
one
sir.
of the canals that vacates into the St. Clair River. And first of all, I want to applaud you for reaching out to everybody and giving us the information. And hopefully we can come to some conclusion how we can mitigate a lot of these circumstances. And I do really appreciate that. I guess the only thing that I would question is the contact I personally had with the Coast Guard and whether there's been some disinformation. Originally, they said, yes, they had a trouble with one of the boats. Then they told me that it was personnel issues. The thing is that they should have, I asked them at that point, can you deploy additional assets from other tugs like the Manitou and other local tugs to go ahead? And they said they didn't have the capacity to do that, but yet the Canadians sent down 2 Coast Guard cutters or icebreakers. And I don't understand why there wasn't a better synergy other than the Canadians doing that we did, and seeing that a boat was tied up in Algonac for 24 hours that could have been patrolling and taking care of some of the ice issues. I understand this is an anomaly. I know that ice occurs annually here. Yes, we had 14 inches in our house, but the thing was, the response was so negligent. And when you reached out to them, then one of the times I called the Coast Guard, honestly, you know what they told me? We can't run our boats right now because of the wind. And I'm thinking, I hung up and I'm thinking, what do you guys do in Alaska? And so unfortunately, I don't know if there's a disconnect or what's happening, but I think there could have been, it's not blaming you, not blaming anybody, just trying to figure out, is there a better way that systems can be employed? Because Canada was running an icebreaker, but we weren't, because we said there were concerns about weather. So can you address that possibly?
So I don't know if it's fair for a county representative to speak for a federal military service. I can't speak to why they made their operational decisions. I just can't, Randy. I understand your frustration. I will tell you that at every meeting that we were at, every 11 o'clock briefing, I was, and if you could see the text on my phone, you would see me begging for more resources every single time I spoke with them. I was also begging the state to have either the state director of emergency management or the governor call the district commander as well. I was doing that all weekend. So I share the frustration of the residents of East China. I do. I will tell you though, they had the one reason that they did tie the ship up for the one day, there was a legitimate reason, and I understand why they can't explain that to the public. And I'll just leave it at that. That was an internal decision by the Coast Guard, and that's their decision to defend. But I will tell you that Operation Coal Shovel is a partnership between both nations, that they consistently make those operational decisions together on how they basically group all the cutters together, whether it's a Canadian boat or a US boat, and they're all those resources tied together that are used in tandem. They're basically all that operations resources, if that makes sense.
Could I ask you one other question? Is there any
Sure.
opportunity for you to potentially raise the question to leverage outside resources? The Coast Guard said they couldn't, yet I saw the Manitou come up river. And so ultimately, if we could leverage outside resources, and I understand everybody's got limited resources and they're at limited places, but when you have other tugs that potentially could be, and here's the interesting thing, St. Clair River from what I have is only 40 miles long. The interesting thing was the blockage was only about 10 miles long. If we could employ outside resources, 2 or 3 tugs to be going up and down, they know where the blockage is. The blockages haven't occurred recently. They've occurred, we know where they've happened over 50, 60, 80, 100 years because it's just where the land falls. And so is there any way to incorporate a backup system saying, okay, we understand the Coast Guard doesn't have the resources, Canada can't get to it. Can we go to outside resources to undo the blockage, which would reduce the, reduce the height of the river? Is that something that could be looked at?
Absolutely, it is. So, and I think I got that question right around the same time that you did. And so it's something that can certainly be talked about with the state. And I will raise that question with them. We actually talked about it the other day, but that has to be something that has to go to the state director. So we will be talking about that with him.
Well, I appreciate you stay honed on that. And I thank you very much for having this town meeting, because at least it gives us an opportunity to share various concerns. Trust me, I don't want to come up and bail out 14 inches of water again. I had 5 hoses going.
Oh, I understand.
The heat went out, hot water heat went out. The only good thing was I had electricity. And so we were relegated to one room, the bedroom. And a lot of people think, well, that would be a neat thing to be with, but no, not after 3 days.
No. And, honestly, I feel for everybody on this call. I want to explain a couple other things. The Mackinac was not mission capable. It had engineering issues. We did request the Mackinac. The Hollyhock was not mission capable for a few reasons. We were really in an interesting spot resource wise, and the water, we've been talking about this potential for 2 years with the water being high. So we were just in the perfect storm.
Right. And so the thing is, guess what? We need to relegate to outside resources if we can leverage other tugs that could go ahead and do what they can't do due to, engineering, personnel, etc. So other than that, I'll leave it at that. And anybody else?
Thanks, Randy.
I've consumed more time than I should have. Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. Cindy or Brian, do you guys have anything else before we'll jump right into the questions and answers? And I think this is a good time to do it.
I think we're good on our side. So yeah, let's get to the Q&A.
And then we can share the resource slide. Really, it's the Terra contact information, and then
I'll do that.
and then the seniors contact. I did speak with the agency today with regard to what they can actually do to provide help for our seniors. I would suggest just giving them a call with your specific situation to see if they can assist. They're happy to if they can. They do have nutrition, which is Meals on Wheels. They have rides so that they can take you in and out if you're having difficulty getting transportation to appointments and such. And they do have a chores assist that maybe if you talk to them, they could come up with some solutions for that. And the other thing I wanted to let you know, if you do need some temporary parking for vehicles, the township hall is always able for that, for temporary parking for vehicles if you need to get them out of your driveway or off the street. That's all I have.
Can I make a suggestion? Sure. Is there, and I know that everybody's got limited resources, and I honestly feel that that's part of the issue here, but ultimately the impacted areas were East China, Marine City, and Algonac. Can't you compose some type of aggregation of resources? And like I said, hire outside resources to Manitou. Don't forget, Malcolm Marine's been around for years. There's others, I'm sure, that you could have aggregated some of the resources from those three cities and said, hey, this is an anomaly. This is something we don't do every year, but because we have such severe flooding, my house got 14 inches, the house next door caught on fire. That is not the typical where we get 2-3 inches of water. Well, we've had that in the past, and we can pump that out, and we can live with that. The problem is that you can do that with your fire department. Is there something that maybe those municipalities can't come together and go, we know we have this event, this is an anomaly, but at least be prepared in the advance of anomaly to go ahead and say, okay, we're contributing X amount of resources to bring in 2 or 3 other tugs because the Coast Guard can't provide it because of mechanical issues. If they can, then you don't have to pay anything. And so I'm just thinking forward thinking. Let's not think about what happened historically. What can we do in the future to ensure that this doesn't occur again?
Yeah, Randy, I appreciate that. I'm actually, when we get on our 11 o'clock call tomorrow, I'm going to maybe talk with the Coast Guard representatives and see if there's a couple things we can maybe do a little differently so that we don't end up in the same place next time. At least have like a weekly or bi-weekly understanding of where things are, something like that, so that we know ahead of time. So yeah, we'll talk to them.
I mean, that would be greatly appreciated. I mean, if you can't be anticipatory, then you're remiss in your duties. I'm just being blunt. And so what we need to do is we need to be anticipatory. This is something that has happened and occurred historically, but in the event of a catastrophic event, and we haven't taken the advance, not blaming anybody. This is a great learning opportunity for all of us. And if we don't put something in process going forward, then we need to be held accountable.
Thank you, sir. All right, I guess we'll open it up.
Well, again, Jason, I want to applaud you for putting this together. I think it was a great opportunity to share insight. And, oh, pardon me. I just think I intercede on somebody. Go ahead.
So I've been reading your briefings and I've spoken to Justin and Mark White, both on the phone. And I do want to thank you for taking my phone calls at weird times, because this is a very panicky situation. And I know that right now we're looking out there in the river, the ice is gone. but I'm reading your briefings and it's talking about this ice shelf that everybody's going to try to not disturb. What is the plan when that ice shelf, are we going to be right back in the same situation? I mean, we're all probably on Boat Nerd watching these Coast Guard cutters that head all the way back to Detroit for the night. And so by the time we have an emergency, for God's sakes, they got to come all the way across Lake St. Clair. Thank God we have that Canadian cutter. I'm telling you, they're outshining us.
So Donna, I do have a one good thing for you. We've got the Algonac pier set up now so that they can refuel and take on water for the 140s. They can refuel and take on water and get rid of trash, and they can do all their things that they need to do there now. So minus a maintenance issue, the 140s can do everything they need to do there, especially the visiting tugs. So the only one that would normally go back is the Bristol Bay. That's because that's her home port. But she wouldn't even go back unless she's out of her 2-week rotation. So they're trying to put them into a rotation now, from what we're being told. So
yeah, I just feel like it was just really too little too late, and they just waited way too long. And I know we could sit here and beat a dead horse, but we cannot have that happen again. I'm the one that called, and my house is surrounded by probably 1,500 sandbags. I've done absolutely everything that I have been asked to do and can do. They're 4 high, and it came over and it filled my crawl and came into my house. I can't do anymore. This is a panic situation. We're going to lose our homes.
So obviously we're all keeping an eye on that what's called an ice bridge. If we don't get like a 70-degree day all of a sudden, which would be a worst case scenario, right? If that thing melts quickly and breaks free and all that lake ice comes down, that could pose a problem. And they've also asked all the ships to slow down and not bust through that and start sending all that ice down. So right now, they're doing what's called an SMIB. It's just an information broadcast, a safety message to let ships know, let mariners know not to go running through that quickly, and to let it freeze and stay where it is. So that is good news for us for now. We're not getting any ice to come down the river. As you can see, like I said, we have open ice in East China and Marine City, and some open ice in Algonac now. So, we'll take all the good news we can get right now.
Okay. And I would like to speak to the township for just a moment. So we've been battling this flood condition for, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 years now. And I've talked to Larry Simons in the past, and I've never talked to Brian. I've never talked to Cynthia, but we have homes along the big river here that they have no seawall, and they have done nothing for 3 years to protect that water from coming in. And so I'm looking to find out what a resident that owns a home on the river, what is their responsibility? Because what we saw happen is we have put a 16-inch extension on our seawall. My home is surrounded by these bags, yet I watched it roll in like we were up at Lakeside Beach, and it just filled the yard and just came north. That probably would have happened. We would have gotten water anyways. I realize that, but we have a whole lot of homes south here on the River Road that they have done nothing to protect their property, and then they've done nothing to protect their neighbors' properties. So I wonder if you can speak to that. What is the responsibility of a resident?
Yeah, I can speak to that. But I honestly don't know the answer to that. It's something we can look up in the ordinance to see what a homeowner would be responsible for. Okay. But I don't have that exact answer for you right now, unfortunately.
Okay. And I know one of the homes, they don't live there. So I'm ready to, can we get some volunteers and start, or can the township put some bags there and charge them for it? You need to come and take a look. It's bad. Right now, it looks like Lakeside Beach. It's rolling up.
All right. Hey, Don, give me a call tomorrow or this evening, and we'll talk about the address, and I'll come on and take a look.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
One of the unique things about this, it's great that we're all have the opportunity to speak to this event. And think about it from the township standpoint. we're all taxpayers, but because we're on the river, we pay a heck of a lot more than most other people. And some people say, oh, well, you're on the river, you should expect that. The river is gorgeous and we appreciate that. But because of the taxes that we pay, we would also hope that there would be some response from the township to say, we want to preserve that asset because these are the people that are paying more, and we should pay more, don't get me wrong. But if we're paying more, we should get some type of response to ensure that we can ensure the value of the property, that you can continue to tax us on, that we all can enjoy, and we're not seeing that at this point. And so I don't know, I don't have the answer. I'm just raising questions, and I'm hoping that there'll be some solutions, because I don't need this anymore. I'm 68 years old. And so consequently, I want to see that we can work cohesively, but I haven't seen any decisive plan. Granted, I'd like to see that, you know, we're going to reach back to the Coast Guard. Trust me, I'm going to go back to my congressman. Why does Canada have a better presence with icebreakers than we do? Why does not the township help more substantially with the individuals that pay more taxes than others? Not that we're any better, but we should be given some type of reverence to, hey, support, because guess what? I'll tear my house down. Then what do you have? You've got nothing at that point. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm just raising interesting questions that I hope that our leaders can give us valid answers to.
I'd like to just really quickly speak a tiny bit to that. About a year ago at this time, we were in the final planning stages for a real town hall, not a virtual. All the communities, New Baltimore, Chesterfield, they were all doing these town hall meetings with the representatives from the state, the county. And unfortunately, the very moment that we set the date, we were shut down. So we've been planning this for over a year, and it's still hoping that we'll have that. And this is where we'll be able to bring Eagle to the table, and we'll talk about our individual issues as a township, what our rights and responsibilities are, what we can and can't do, what individual property owners can and can't do. And that has been part of our plan. It definitely got derailed.
Well, I appreciate that, but let's do this. And don't count this as crass. We have the ability to do it virtually. Hopefully you could generate that same conversation with the other townships and do it, because when you say a year, because next year is coming really quick and we don't need to encounter another opportunity. Call it an opportunity? No. Call it an issue? Yes. A flooding. But you know what? You have the ability to go ahead and generate something, as opposed to taking a year and saying, oh, we got to wait till we can see in person. It's not happening. It's just the new generation of managing the township, managing government, managing individuals.
Are we open for open mic at the moment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Justin, thanks again. This is Bill Miller on Point Drive. I guess my first comment was as we're all monitoring the NOAA water levels and the rise that started to happen on the 1st, those of us on the river, probably at least 5 days ahead of that, we saw major ice flow down the river. And as is already commented, there's plenty of bends in the river down in Algonac, and it doesn't know which way to go. And so it jams up, and it's going to happen when you get that amount of flow. So for the Coast Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers, whomever is responsible for guarding our coast, whoever is waiting on the township or the county to say, hey, we got high water, it's flooding, please come help. Yep, the response time was 3 hours for a directive to apply ships, but it took the Risley, the I want to call it the manly ship that could actually do the work.
Yeah.
Nothing against the small boats, but it's a big job and a big river, and we're still not down to the
well, it's the most capable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most capable. They were down in Toledo, and it took them a whole day to get up here. So their response, even though wheels were in motion, because of the rise of the river, the rise rate of the river, we can't wait for water to start rising. We need to monitor ice flow on a regular basis due to weather conditions. And if it's clear, yeah, okay. But, again, the point to this ice shelf that's looming over our head, obviously, the Coast Guard has helicopters every day flying up and down the river, monitoring ice flow and flooding and reporting back, I'm sure. My frustration is that they did not have the Risley and or some other coordinated Coast Guard cutter applied to just running the river when the ice flow was actually just starting to accumulate so that it would not accumulate. So my frustration is there. Second of all, I think a number of us on the river have seen dock damage already. I know my dock is damaged. I've seen tremendous damage to my other neighbor's dock. And, it's in the order of tens of thousands of dollars when it comes to getting stuff like that repaired. Now, why is the dock damaged? Because the water's high and the 3 to 5 inch ice sheets that are coming down the river are right at the wood level, not a foot and a half lower like they should be this time of year, and maybe passing under some of the wood structure of the dock. So I'm a little bit nervous because the water level is, it's stable, hasn't changed in several days, but it's still right at the wood level of our docks. If we get a large ice flow coming down, we're going to get more damage. And so a little frustration that there's still an ice blockage. If you look at Algonac, it's a foot lower now in water level than we are here in East China, St. Clair. I read off of the St. Clair State Police Post water level chart. So
yes,
I'm a little worried, concerned, frustrated that the real ice blockage that's somewhere in between here and Algonac has not been broken up so that our water levels can give us a little bit more cushion and potentially save a few more docks and reduce property damage here. So that's a frustration.
Yeah, and Bill, if I can expand a little on that too. So Lake St. Clair is down as well. What, almost 6 inches, right, Mark? That's what they said. Was it 6 inches?
It's over there. Lake Erie is down 1 foot.
Right. Yeah. So we know that there's a water loss, obviously, and we know where it is right now. So the problem right now is with the ice that's left in our river, there's nowhere for it to go because Lake St. Clair is now frozen over. So every time they drive through the ice, they're just making more ice when it sits overnight and refreezes. So that's kind of the rule once we get to this point, is you're breaking ice and you're making more ice. So they've got to balance that, right? I'm a little surprised that we woke up this morning and we had open water. It was kind of surprising. So that's actually a good sign, I think. Although it may have just dove under the other ice. So it's kind of a 50-50, but the fact that we held the same level it's kind of a win, or at least a break even. So, right. So we are monitoring the lake levels in Lake St. Clair. We're monitoring the station over at St. Clair Shores.
Anyone else locked up?
I think he locked up.
All right.
Are you back?
Oh, did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze there. Well, and guess what? We're freezing here too.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, but
anyway,
here's the thing, though. Think about it. St. Clair River is 40 miles long. We're talking about a 10-mile stretch.
I know.
I mean, this is ridiculous. It'd be different if we're talking about a 100-mile stretch and you got to run a Coast Guard this way and that way. It should be, should be a non-consequential issue. It should be, we got 10 miles, get 2-3 tugs, get the Risley out there, get these little midget Coast Guard boats out there, unblock it, let the flow go. I mean, it's 10 miles. I mean, it's not like 100 miles. That's what I don't understand. And hopefully you can raise that with the Coast Guard, because they have been remiss in their duties. I guarantee you, and I will reach out to my congressman saying, yeah, you need new boats? Great. We'll fund those boats, but you can't just allow us to just sit here and let the Canadians do the job that you should be doing. We are the parent country. They are, you know what? I mean, whatever. I don't know. Sorry. Go ahead. Pardon me.
Well, if I can say something, just
Yes,
FYI, St. Clair River is not patrolled by the U.S. Coast Guard. It's U.S. Coast Guard patrols other parts. This area is patrolled by Canada under U.S. Canadian agreement. So that's where, if you keep on saying that, the Canadians are outshining us, they should be in this area because they are responsible for this part of the Great Lakes. Number two, I'd like to address to the township, as far as the one woman that spoke earlier about the water coming in from the other properties next to her. I have the same issue, not only this time of year, but even in the summertime. It can be 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 95 degrees out, and I can't go out in my front yard because the yards a couple doors north of me are filled with water and just a swampland for mosquitoes. So with that said, I would like the township to maybe give Roseville, or not Roseville, but St. Clair Shores a call, because they have ordinances down there that state if you don't maintain your property, then the government comes in, fixes it, and taxes you for it. And if you don't pay it, then you lose your place. That's what I would like East China to review and hopefully put into place.
Joel, you made an interesting comment there. Should we be reaching out to the Canadian government? You're saying that they are responsible. If we need to reach out to them, I will reach out to them. So are you sure that they are the responsible party?
I know of at least 10 years ago they were. Justin could probably verify or elaborate on that. But I know at one point they had this area and we had other areas.
Justin, can you identify or can you expand upon what he just said?
So I'm not aware that one is responsible for one area and one is responsible for the other, because, in all the years that I ever patrolled this area, we would do just as many patrols as they did. So I don't know of any agreement. I know that there's a Coast Guard, I believe there's a Coast Guard public affairs officer on here, and maybe they could shed some light on that. But I don't believe there's an agreement that says the Canadian Coast Guard will do this area and the U.S. Coast Guard will do that area. I believe it's the Maritime Transportation System says that during coal shovel, it's a team effort and we'll all do it together.
Thank you. Thank you for giving that information. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and then one more thing on there is you can't expect these guys to do miracles when there's no place to put the ice.
I do agree with that. But they'll continue to try because it's what they always do.
Yep.
And Justin, I was going to just jump in real quick.
Yes,
Jeremiah
sir.
Schiesel, U.S. Coast Guard Public Affairs Officer. Yeah, so I'm not aware of any agreement with Canada as far as, certain areas that we patrol. But, I can definitely understand the frustrations and the on the response time. And we are doing our best to try to minimize the damage. The what happened was, as Don explained, is how quick it happened. And our cutters, even though they're set for patrol times, we did have a pretty quick response time, even though this thing happened over, I know you were talking about 5 days ago, 5 days before February 1st that we were seeing ice flows. But as far as getting notified, we were out there pretty quick, and the mechanical issues that we run into, we can't, we can do our best to maintain our ships that are old, but as far as an engine overheating, we can't really, we can't prevent that from ever happening. And we did have several cutters, at least one cutter out there every day. And whether it be calling the Nia Bay, the Bristol Bay, once the Morro Bay, once the Bristol Bay was fixed, they went out there and started joining the fight with the Risley and the Griffin. The Griffin, the reason Canada was already there was so quick as far as the Griffin was because they were already on scene. They were already in the area. Our cutters have a certain requirement to get underway. And once we hear of calls from emergency managers letting us know, hey, there's an ice breaking situation, there's a flooding situation, we take that very seriously because it's something that happens year round, or not year round, every year, apologize. We responded. There was a tug that was actually beset by ice that the Bristol Bay responded to and got them out of, and then they were in the area, but then suffered that casualty, and that's when we called more cutters. And I empathize with you with your frustration, and we are trying to mitigate damage to people's homes and businesses, and it's just working with the Canadians is a team effort, and they have their own policies and we have our own policies. They have their own vessels and we have our own vessels that have different capabilities, and that's one of the reasons why they're able to go at night and in certain wind conditions, is because as you pointed out, Randy, that it's a lot larger ship than than our ships, and they have better capabilities. So
I apologize for that, because I thought, well, oh my goodness, when he told me, well, the wind conditions were horrendous, I'm thinking, what do you guys do in Alaska? And being from Oregon at one time, where the mouth of the Columbia is the ghost yard of all ships, I'm going, you guys do an incredible job, and I applaud you. And I didn't realize, and I apologize at this point, I realized that maybe you didn't have the cutters, you have the smaller boats, and there would be no way that I would ever want to jeopardize your crew to keep my house dry. But needless to say, I'd rather have people safe.
Absolutely, and we diligently work to mitigate people's frustration and damage to their homes. And that's why we called more resources up. And unfortunately, some of the resources that we have, the Mackinac had some engineering issues. The Bristol Bay had overheating. But then we called the Nia Bay and the Morro Bay. And now in the next few days, we're going to have Hollyhock, Bristol Bay, and Griffin will be on, for Sunday. And then we're going to have another one coming from the Sioux, Katmai Bay, will hopefully be there Monday. So there's more resources coming, as far as the Coast Guard is concerned. And we wanted, the community to know that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Justin, you need to put this in the Port Huron paper. I really appreciate what you just said and the resources that you're offering and affording us, because I think the rest is still to come, because I've come up and down the river and we're still seeing there's areas it's wide open, and other areas you're going, oh my goodness, if it blocks up, we're going to be doomed again.
All right. Thanks, Lieutenant. All right, Randy, we're gonna give another few folks a little time to speak. So I appreciate all your comments, but I know there's some other folks that are asking to talk. So thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Justin, I've Jerry Sherlink here. I've got a couple thoughts.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the comments, Lieutenant, I'm glad to see you joined us. We appreciate you being here. I think a 3-hour response time after initial call is probably pretty good. I'm struggling with the idea that they were unable to work at night with GPS and all the modern technology, and they had to call it off. I'm struggling with one of the points that was made much earlier in the conversation, that these massive ice flows started at least 5 days before February 1st, when those gauge readings were noticed and acted on. I think we got to do a much better job monitoring that ice flow. Anybody that's been in this area for more than a couple of years knows when that ice starts flowing in that kind of significant amount, it's going to jam up downriver and we're going to get flooding. And I think if we'd have been deployed or had that Coast Guard deployment done well ahead of that February 1st date, this whole thing could have been avoided. So predictable is preventable in the risk management business. I think we got to do a better job with eyes on the situation and not be responded to just gauges. Like I said, just talking to folks around the area, they were making calls into the Coast Guard well ahead of February 1st when that first call went in from emergency management. So I think we got to do better in the future.
Okay, thanks, Jerry, for that feedback. Anybody else have a question or any feedback?
No questions. The only thing I would hope that the township would do to engage a public-private partnership to ensure that when other resources from the federal government, for whatever reasons, understand you have mechanical problems, that they are willing to engage other resources, external resources, to occur instead of just relying on the federal government. Otherwise, they're remiss in their duties in supporting the taxpayers.
I have a question for the township, and I know I'm on Point Drive. If I was fortunate enough, my house wasn't affected. Water got very close, but you know, is there a way we can set up some kind of volunteer effort, notification system, sign up system? If I would have been able to come home early, help sandbag. I'm assuming other people who weren't affected would be willing to help other people. But I just think that'd be a good idea moving forward. There's some kind of volunteer effort to help out neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, there's hey, Thomas and Brian, supervisor. We could put something on the website, but not all of us that work here in the building live on Point Drive. So obviously we get updates as things become problems or predicted to be problems. But if we put that up on the website, to assume that everybody's going to check the website every morning is not a great assumption either. So to answer that, I don't know if we could set something up with your neighbors, or maybe you'd volunteer to take the lead on that. It's kind of like a association or something like that. So.
I have something to add to that. Can you all hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was curious as to if there could be some kind of volunteer system in place for Point Drive, but for East China. We're not on Point Drive, but water got to our house, not inside, thank goodness. But, we had to leave pretty quickly and call the township and get sandbags and go sandbag. And we all know what a laborious process that is. And we were able to get down about 100 sandbags. Thankfully, we had help, but it was an all-day process. And by the time we got back with sandbags, there was water at our foundation. So that would be, I think, a really good something to look into for our township, because my husband and I were able to get there and get some help, but we know that there's a lot of people along this river that may not have those resources. You know, thankfully we did, but we know there's others that don't. So maybe as a township, we could have some kind of emergency systems in place where something that this catastrophic happens, that there's some kind of help for our township residents.
Well, we can provide sand and sandbags. We're a very small organization. We don't have the personnel, but we welcome anyone who wants to assist us in coordinating some sort of volunteer effort.
Yeah, and we can help from the county level too in some type of community emergency response team situation. So I know they've had it in the past, and we were actually talking about it this week. So Cindy, we'll talk offline about that.
I think we still need, from a township standpoint, even a county standpoint, look at a minimum required seawall requirement, either permanent structure or at least a temporary backup situation if a permanent structure isn't above. So say like it's a sandbag retaining wall 5 bags high or whatever it needs to be. But I think we need to press forward with enacting some enforcement of something like that. And the suggestion was is to go look at other communities. St. Clair Shores, I think, is the example. I think that's a point of action we ought to work on.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I keep hearing Point Drive, Point Drive, Point Drive. Yes, those homes are worth a lot more than my home is. I had 29 inches of water in my house. The estimate is $95,000 for repairs. They have to rip out walls, floors, everything. It's not only affecting Point Drive. Us down here on Orchard Drive, the other canals, Walnut, we get slammed hard over here, worse than they got. And, you know, we have a lot of elderly people living on our street. I live alone. You know, I bought this as my retirement home 4 years ago. I have to leave. I cannot do this again. This is the second time it's happened to me. We can't only worry about the expensive homes. You know, we have to worry about everyone in the community that is suffering. I know my neighbors were in Florida, their house flooded. You know, I watched water run through houses down here on my street. It can't only be about the expensive homes. It has to be about everybody's home. We all need help down here. That's all I have.
Yes, ma'am. I have one question, Debbie. Well, Debbie, I'm going to send you a private message and see if I can get your contact info.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, anybody else have any questions, or anybody want to make a comment, or the floor is open.
My name's John Latham. I'm over at I'm 14 houses down the street off the bridge on Point Drive. I'm on the canal side. I'm not on the river side. Really, I've probably only lost maybe $3,000 worth of concrete in my backyard. It's no big deal, really. I would like to say that my neighbor, on the other hand, on the one side of me, she's a single lady in her 80s, alone. She has enough income to go ahead and support herself without losing her home, but she can't make no expensive repairs. And how is she going to sandbag if we don't find some method where some of us who have no way of hauling sand, or hauling sandbags for that matter, can sandbag together? Because if I put up the sandbags here and she doesn't, I'm still full of water. It makes no difference. The other issue that I think we have to address is why are the water levels so high in the Great Lakes in the first place? And I think we're all foolish to believe it has anything to do with anything more than the freighters themselves being able to haul extra load, and therefore there's big money involved. The Great Lakes water level can be drained to some extent by the dams in Chicago, sending the water down to the Mississippi and out the Colorado River. And then the water can also be drained at Niagara Falls. Why are the water levels kept so high in the first place? Well, we need to start asking. And if we had that 2-foot buffer in the water level, would we have now been safe? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm going to put in case anybody needs my office number, I'm going to put my office number in the chat. Feel free to, if you need anything, to give me a call.
I think it's been very helpful, Jason. I'm hoping that the township has been able to extract a lot of valuable information and hopefully prepare itself in advance of future episodes. Granted, it's a great learning opportunity for all of us, but if it historically happens again, then ultimately those individuals need to be held accountable. And you know what? I think we're trying to deal with it the best we can. I really applaud you for putting this together. I thank the township for participation. And as we move forward, hopefully we will get this issue resolved and at least drill down tightly on how to manage future episodes.
Thanks, Randy. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just a quick question. I believe at the beginning of the call, you mentioned about posting some type of document or application information.
Yeah, give me 1 minute. Let me, Brian and Cindy, if you guys, or Dave, if any of you want to do your outbrief, give me a minute, and I have to go to my other computer and send it to myself. So give me a minute.
On the township level, like I say is, anything new comes up or we have any changes in status, just check the East China Township website. We'll be posting up-to-date information. And as far as some of these questions, these are things that we can look into. But yeah, hopefully everybody realizes that this was a, kind of a flash incident. It kind of snuck up, unlike the summertime where, we could see it was predicted that the water was going to come up to a certain level. So, yeah, it sucks for everybody affected. That's for sure. I feel it for you.
Well, we just want to make sure that, guess what? March is still occurring, and potentially historically events have indicated that that's when high water occurs again. So we've all been prepped. So hopefully we don't have this conversation in March when the ice starts to flow again, and we haven't taken the advance after having the opportunity of having this conversation and not deploying resources, because if we don't, then the individuals that are responsible should be held accountable.
All right, I put the link in the chat for everybody. If you didn't get it because you're on a telephone or you just whatever, my email address, and I'm going to go really slowly, is J Westmiller, WESTMILLER, at stclaircounty.org. Feel free to email me and I will send you the survey directly. And you can, if you need my telephone number and you're on a telephone, it's 810-989-6325. And I appreciate everybody joining the call tonight. If there's, obviously we're going to stay on top of this. We're going to be working all of the needs that the township pushes our way, as well as the damage assessment, and we'll be helping out on some of the debris management and anything else that's pushed our way. And we will be continuing to work the ice breaking efforts with our federal partners. And that's all I think we have. Mark, did I miss anything?
Again, thank you for orchestrating this. Thank you for the township for their participation. I think it's been very, very valuable to all of us. And as we move forward, at least we've got this to look back on, and hopefully we won't make the same error as March approaches and further events occur.
All right, everybody, with that, have a great night, and we'll talk with you all very soon.
Thanks again.